Gaveston had died, but the void he left behind would not remain empty for long. Into the king's grieving heart slipped another man, colder, crueler, and infinitely more dangerous. His name was Hugh Despenser the Younger, and he would turn the English court into a fortress of fear. Hugh Despenser the Younger was no mere courtier. He came from a respected noble family. His father had been loyal to the crown for decades. But Hugh himself was hungry for more. Land, titles, wealth, and absolute influence over the king. Unlike Piers Gaveston, who had charm and flamboyance, Despenser was calculating and vengeful. He understood that access to Edward's heart meant control over the kingdom. He didn't care to entertain or to amuse. He came to rule through fear, force, and exploitation. Edward II was in mourning when Despenser returned to court around 1318. The loss of Gaveston had left him emotionally raw, paranoid, and in need of loyal companionship. Despenser filled that need, but on his terms. He flattered the king, supported his ambitions, and soon became his new favorite. But unlike Gaveston, Despenser didn't just want affection, he wanted power through terror. He began demanding lands belonging to other nobles, especially those of his enemies. And Edward, desperate to keep him close, gave him everything. Within a few short years, Despenser had turned the royal court into a machine of extortion. He used his influence to confiscate noble estates, imprison rivals without trial, torture those who resisted his will. Families were torn apart. Lords who opposed him vanished into dungeons or died in mysterious accidents. And he didn't stop there. He began using sexual blackmail, threatening noblewomen, abusing his power over young men, and reportedly even having noble daughters taken as political hostages. Despenser's cruelty was systematic and calculated, not a symptom of madness, but of a carefully orchestrated regime. Even Isabella's own lands, her dower properties granted upon her marriage, were seized by Despenser and his allies. By 1321, Isabella was under virtual surveillance. Her household was infiltrated by Despenser's men. Trusted servants were replaced. Her mail was read, her movements restricted. Whenever she went to prayer or visited the countryside, she was shadowed. Chroniclers wrote, the queen moved through the palace like a bird in a gilded cage, and all the while, Edward did nothing to stop it. In fact, he grew more dependent on Despenser, allowing him to serve as de facto ruler of England. Isabella was not alone in her hatred of Despenser. By 1321, many powerful barons, including Roger Mortimer, Thomas of Lancaster, and the de Bohun family, had turned openly against him. They tried to force Edward to exile Despenser, as they had once done with Gaveston. Edward pretended to agree. Despenser was temporarily banished, only to return shortly after under secret royal protection. This betrayal triggered the Despenser War, a brief but brutal conflict between the royalists and the rebelling barons. Despenser, now with Edward's full support, crushed the rebellion. Many nobles were executed or imprisoned. Their estates were seized, often for Despenser's personal gain. One of the most powerful lords in England, Thomas of Lancaster, was captured after the Battle of Boroughbridge in 1322. Despenser arranged for his public execution, a beheading staged like a royal spectacle. Chroniclers say Isabella was forced to watch from the palace windows, a warning of what would happen to any who stood against the new regime. With Lancaster gone, Despencer's tyranny grew even darker. Several chronicles, including Jean Froissart, suggest that Despencer was not merely cruel, he was sexually predatory. He was accused of raping the wife of Edmund Fitzalan, one of the king's enemies, molesting noble girls placed in his care. Using sexual violence as punishment and intimidation, while official records avoided such accusations, private letters and accounts from noble households began to surface. Even Isabella's ladies-in-waiting were not safe, and some were dismissed or imprisoned for defying Despencer's authority. Still, Edward turned a blind eye. Some historians suggest Edward knew, but preferred not to act. By 1324, Isabella had endured over a decade of humiliation, but now she faced constant psychological torment. She tried to appeal to Edward directly, begging him to restrain Despencer. His answer was chilling. "He is my faithful servant, and you are but a woman." Her final protection, her dower lands, the symbolic security of every medieval queen, were taken. She had no income, no power, no voice, and yet she was still queen. That title, empty though it seemed, would become her weapon. The wolf had been wounded, the queen disgraced, but she had not been broken. While Despencer ruled in shadows and Edward sat blind upon his throne, Isabella waited. She had survived her wedding, her betrayal, and now her captivity, and soon she would do what no queen had dared before. In the shadowed halls of Edward II's palace, a silent war raged, not of swords and banners, but of control, fear, and submission. And its victims were not nobles or knights. They were women, royal, noble, and forgotten. By 1324, Queen Isabella's household was no longer hers. Hugh Despencer had replaced her loyal attendants with his own spies, stripped her of property, and imprisoned her dignity. Her every step was watched, her chambers searched, her letters opened, her allies exiled. And still she smiled in public, because fear had become part of court life. It wasn't just Isabella. Women across the court, wives of noblemen, ladies-in-waiting, young widows, all lived under a regime of threats, humiliation, and worse. Despencer was not merely greedy, he was a sadist, according to chroniclers and noble family records. He raped noblewomen whose husbands he imprisoned. One foreign observer wrote, "He threatened to hang their children if they refused him, and no one, not even the queen, could stop him." One of the most whispered tales at God Court was that of Lady Elizabeth Barrett, the young wife of a minor baron who spoke out against Despencer. When her husband was captured and jailed, Despencer summoned Elizabeth to court under the pretense of negotiating his release. Instead, he had her imprisoned in the Tower of London. No trial, no audience. She was kept for weeks. And when she was released, she returned to her family silent and pale, refusing to speak of what happened behind those stone walls. But others did. A nun in her family's priory wrote, "She was never the same. She wept at night and feared the sight of red banners. Red, Despencer's colors." Despencer used marriage, imprisonment, and threats against the wives and daughters of political opponents. If a nobleman resisted him, his female relatives were taken as wards of the crown, and often forced to live under Despenser's control. In some cases, they were remarried against their will to loyalist knights. In others, they simply vanished from the record. Queen Isabella knew many of these women. They had once attended her court, shared prayers, walked the same gardens. Now they were ghosts, and she feared her own daughter, the young Eleanor, would be next. Isabella's household had once been large, over 100 attendants, including maids, tutors, cooks, and noble companions. By 1324, only a handful remained. The rest had been dismissed under fabricated charges, sent to remote nunneries, or vanished entirely. One of her most trusted ladies, Marjorie de Umfreville, was dragged from her bed by Despenser's men in the middle of the night. No charges were given. She was never seen again. Another, Lady Alice de Lacy, was publicly accused of theft, a lie to discredit her family. She was paraded through the court and imprisoned in a castle under Despenser's control. Isabella could no longer speak freely to anyone. "They are punishing me by destroying the women who serve me," she later told a French envoy. Throughout these atrocities, Edward II remained passive. Whether out of fear, dependence, or emotional blindness, he allowed Despenser's actions to go unchecked. Isabella pleaded with him. Once, in front of the royal council, she confronted Despenser directly, accusing him of turning the crown into a weapon of cruelty. Edward dismissed her with a single phrase, "Your tongue does not know the affairs of men." He then ordered that she be removed from the council chamber. That day, Isabella returned to her chambers, broke her crucifix on the stone floor, and told her chaplain, "I shall have justice, in this life or the next." Until this point, Isabella had been a pious queen, attending Mass daily, fasting, and offering alms to the poor. But now, her prayers became darker. She began seeking the company of female mystics, known for visions of vengeance, suffering, and divine retribution. Some historians believe she even sought secret counsel from heretical sects, those labeled witches or prophetic rebels by the Church, women who spoke of divine wrath against tyrants. A French friar recorded that Isabella once confessed, "I believe hell walks the halls of this palace, and his name is Hugh." Outside the palace walls, rumors of Despenser's abuses spread like wildfire. Peasants spoke of noble women locked in towers, of children born in secret, of entire households silenced. In London, taverns and abbeys, whispers grew. "The Queen suffers with us." And so, a quiet alliance began to form among disgraced nobles, exiled clerics, and angry commoners. Some of these letters, smuggled through cloth merchants and abbots, found their way into Isabella's hands. She burned nothing. She read, remembered, and waited. In late 1324, after over a decade of spiritual and emotional torment, Isabella suffered what some historians describe as a nervous breakdown. A private letter from a French lady-in-waiting describes her walking the halls in silence, wearing mourning black though no death had occurred. She refused food for days, spoke to no one. At times, she stared at tapestries of martyrs and saints for hours without moving, but she was not broken. This silence was preparation, because something had changed. she had nothing left to lose. What happens when a queen is stripped of her title, her allies, and even her voice? Some vanish, others fade into shadows, but not Isabella. From within the cage, she sharpened her claws.